And we are live, I do
Hi.
believe. Welcome back to Blades and Bodice Rippers, where we actually haven't been reading a lot of Blades or Bodice Rippers lately.
True.
So there's no truth in advertising anymore.
Well, they had bodices in the book. They have bodices. They could have been ripped.
But they weren't.
Well, they might have been. They did.
You don't know.
Right, fair enough,
so-
fair enough.
They got caught in bushes.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a ripped bodice.
I apologize for casting aspersions on our own. We're here to talk about Picnic at Hanging Rock, which was my choice, hence the venue. And for those that are here chaotically without having heard of it or read it, it takes place in the Victorian era. So we dressed either as Victorians, or it takes place in the Victorian era in a girls' boarding school. So we also possibly dressed as boarding school attendees or private school attendees. So I think you can tell which of us went for which vibe. We're split down the middle. But would you guys like to introduce yourselves / tell us what you rated the book? Just like the quick star rating, maybe an explanatory sentence if the star rating is a gasp-worthy star rating, and then we'll get into it.
Hi, I'm Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany. I think I gave it 2.5. I feel like it was in the background the story was interesting, but it was the most boring way to tell it. Was my feeling. So
Fair. Hi, I'm Amanda, the naughty librarian. And I was kind of vaguely indifferent the whole time. So I gave it 2 stars because I was like, I don't have a murder boner for it. I don't hate this, but I don't love it. So I'm like, it's fine. I don't know. I described it as the Virgin Suicides meets Lost. So if that's appealing. So yeah, I don't know. I was hard rating it because I was like, I don't have a hard opinion. So I just did 2 because it could have moments.
I'm Mara from Books Like Whoa, and I liked it. I was between 3.5 and 4 stars. I think it was a vibe-based book, and I liked the vibes. So while I agree, I think that this would have been even better as a short story. I agree it lagged in the middle a little bit, but I was into the vibes. I liked the conclusion. Yeah.
Oh, you're
muted, my dear.
I said I'm Leanna, and this is my channel, so you should know who I am. And I think I gave it 4 or 5 stars. I quite liked it. We'll get into it as far as what we all knew about it going into it. So I would be curious to know if you guys did or didn't know anything about it before reading it. I had seen not the original movie, but the TV version of it when it came out, but it had been a really long time because I saw it when it came out, which was in 2018, and don't want to count how many years ago that was. So I remembered mainly the vibes and that it was mysterious, but I didn't really remember any of the specifics. And I also had no idea whether a miniseries would be accurate at all to the book. So I also wasn't sure if I remembered anything, if that was right or not. So anyway, I was always curious to read it ever since then. And like Mara said, it's a vibey book. I thought the vibes were really good. I actually, in my review on Goodreads, I said if Gene Wolfe wrote a book about a Victorian girls' boarding school, it would be this book. Because it feels like the way Gene Wolfe will purposely not tell you the important stuff and hide it in the background and obscurely, opaquely paint a narrative that seems to be one thing and is actually another, and is no, I put all the information there for you. If you didn't find it, that's not my problem. That's Gene Wolfe's MO. So I was if he was writing about Victorian girls, this would be his book. And I love Gene Wolfe, so that was fine for me.
Because Bethany and Lana really were into Gene Wolfe. Me and Amanda emphatically were not.
Wait.
And then me and Lana are more.
Wolfe. What did he write? We read a book by him, right?
The Book of the New Sun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wasn't smart enough to understand that. And I was
you and I were not here for it.
So
but
you know what? Because I did notice what you're talking about, Leanna. I just think that Book of the New Sun, what you were being told was so outlandish and still interesting. Whereas I felt what we were being told in this was
Well,
so I
funnily
caught
enough,
stuff. I mean, yeah.
I'm currently reading a different Gene Wolfe book, the first installment of Latro in the Mist, and it's like a historical fiction, but like a Wolfian historical fiction, so it's still like weird. But it feels much more straightforward, except everything is really still kind of wispy and hard to like pin down.
Mhm.
And I've like reading Latro and this kind of back to back simultaneously. They were both these kind of like vibey, flow with it, not sure exactly what's happening or whether the thing I'm being told is important or not. So I'm just gonna kind of take it in and we'll see what happens. And like just I was very much in that headspace from both books at the same time. So this was like right time, right book for both of them for me right now.
That makes sense.
Question for all of you. Did you guys find out what the actual ending was originally supposed to be? Because that I definitely think we need to talk about.
Yeah.
No.
It's
Okay,
in the forward.
Yeah, it's in the forward. So we'll talk about that once we get through. I think we
Well,
should say that
also-
as the like ending to
Did
like-
anyone know that before they read it, or did they look at it after? Because I saw that the forward was like, if you don't want to know, then don't read this forward, come back to it. So I was like, I don't want to know.
I did the same thing. I was like, oh, okay, this is going to spoil things. Let me read the book and then I'll read that at the
Because I
end.
bet it would be a really different experience if you read the forward.
Yeah,
with the
I
spoiler.
haven't read the
I-
forward, so I don't know. And I didn't know. I
Yeah.
had never heard of this before Leanna picked it.
Oh, yeah, we're supposed to be saying what our history is. With
Oh
it.
yeah. So yeah, we won't
Oh,
say
yeah.
any spoilers for the book whatsoever, including the thing that's not in the book, which is the like explanation from the author. Until like we'll warn you when we get there.
Yeah.
So right now, like, what did you know without spoilers
Yeah.
about Picnic at Hanging Rock?
So I didn't know. I had never heard of it before you picked it. All I knew about it was kind of what you said, that it was like Victorian girls boarding school and they disappear. Maybe someone's killed. That was like all I knew. So I reviewed it in my mid-month wrap-up, and like 2 people in my comments were like, oh, the mini series is way better, you should watch that, which I haven't yet, but I'm curious to. I would be interested to see this in a different format, but yeah.
Yeah, I had heard of it before because I had heard about the adaptations. I didn't really know what it was about. I knew it was like girls at a school and stuff. And, like, I was at Hanging Rock. I'm like, is someone getting hung? Is there murder? Like, I really didn't know. I had just heard of it because I had heard of the adaptations, but I never saw the adaptations because I suck at watching things. So no, it was my first time reading it. I guess it's a modern classic because it was like in the late 60s when this came out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah, I had heard of it because on RuPaul's Drag Race Down Under, one of the queens had
Oh yeah, wait, I don't know what
recreated
it's said for anyone that doesn't know. This doesn't take place in England. This takes place in Australia.
in the bush.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should stop even attempt. I cannot do an Australian accent. I could do Nar. That's about it. So one of the queens had done like a full Edwardian schoolgirl look in like the full white picnic costume, and was like camping it up on the runway. And so then I looked up what the source was and then put the movie on my to watch someday list, because I was under the impression that this was going to be like 100% picnic time and everybody kind of slowly going nuts, which is not what the book is.
No.
Like a girls' boarding school bacchanal.
Kind of like I was imagining like we're
Lord of
all-
the Flies, but girls' picnic.
But at a picnic, that would
and
be
like the heat of this. I was imagining like the heat of the sun in the bush is like causing these repressed Edwardian schoolgirls to like connect with their inner whatever.
I would
And
read that book. That would be interesting.
which
Yeah,
is,
that sounds fun.
which is not what the book is, but there, we do get some nice vibiness out at the Rock at 3 key ventures or points. So
Yeah, I already said like I saw the miniseries in 2018 and was like, oh, I want to read that book. I think when I originally watched the miniseries, I did like look up if the ending because the way the miniseries ends is also not super clear. So I was like, oh, is this like, why is that? So like I did Google. But the thing that's in the foreword of this book, I don't think I found that information at that time. I think I would have remembered that information if I had found it. So I think I just heard vague things about how, like, whether or not this was close to the book ending or not like, but also, did you know? Like, I don't think I knew that until now. Because it's a pretty out there thing. I think I would remember. So
Yeah,
so before we say,
I'm like curious.
Honestly, I really like that it's so ambiguous.
Without saying what it is, but I'm curious, Mara, since you did you say, Amanda, you read the foreword?
I read the foreword. I like spoilers. I read it right away.
So before saying, like, we're not gonna say what it is, but do you guys think that it was a good idea to not have that ending in the book, or do you wish that they had kept
100%.
100%.
But knowing what the authorial intent is makes it an interesting, I think makes me like the book better. But actually seeing what was described, absolutely not.
Her editor did her a solid, and she's like, girl, do not go sci-fi all of a sudden. No one will like it.
And the other part of it is that there was lots of speculation for years. And I think to this day there's speculation because she herself did attend a girls' boarding school, and there's all these, like, did this happen? Is this autobiographical?
Yeah.
Did something like this, or do you know people that this happened to, even if it wasn't you? And she's never actually said yes or no about that. She's just kind of been like, look, and like the book also begins with like a nod to something like that. The very first lines of the book are, whether a picnic at Hanging Rock is fact or fiction, my readers must decide for themselves. As the fateful picnic took place in the year 1900 and all the characters who appear in this book are long since dead, it hardly seems important.
I wonder, I think that the intended ending, I don't believe that happened.
Okay, well, no. But like
I would not be surprised if, like, for instance, what happened to Sarah could have been rooted in,
or even that, like, basically the way the book presents this sans ending, which is how the book is. The book doesn't have that ending. So basically, like, the fact that she would have attended a school where girls disappeared and were never found, and there was only ever speculation about what happened to them, and then this has her kind of, like, when people write Jack the Ripper stories, they're like, we still don't know really with Jack the Ripper. People write books that are like, oh, I think Jack the Ripper was this person, or this is what happened. So if this was her being like, okay, there were girls that disappeared in my school, we don't know what happened, so this is my version of, I think this is what happened.
So I assumed, based on like things that were told in the story, like little things, I assumed that boy, the rich boy from England or whatever, that he was somehow involved in like assaulting them or something. Like, that was how it read to me. Mm-hmm. And also that the headmistress killed that girl.
Well, I would love to talk about Sarah, because that is the part of the book that I feel like I have least understanding of what is being implied.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know, but again, it's only speculation, so I don't have the author's word for it.
You know what? All the things about speculation in this book, that's the whole point of the book. It's just like, you don't know. And you never will, because sometimes in life things remain a mystery. But like, what I think
before we
do
spoilers, so we tell people, so like, what is this book about? So like, we haven't
No.
actually really said.
We
so
kind of did.
Cool.
We've been talking about girls disappeared at a picnic.
Yeah, girls and a teacher disappear at a picnic. One girl
in the
is
bush.
In the bush,
like out in the bush at this famous like
in the late 1800s
geological rock formation.
Which is like really far out. Like, they have to travel like hours and hours to just be there for a picnic for a couple hours. So it's like a whole day thing, because it takes them like 5 hours to get there and like 5 hours to get back on a carriage. Right. So they're trying, like, it's a whole like day excursion for these Victorian girls to go out to this like very not proper place. You know, it is like the wilderness. Mm-hmm. So they're all dressed in their lace and their straw hats and their picnic baskets to go to a place that is utterly removed from civilization, this geological marvel. And then 3 of them disappear, as well as one of the teachers disappears. And so then the rest of them come back really late, and the school mistress, who was expecting them 8 o'clock sharp, is like, what the heck, where have you been? And where is the rest of you? And they're like, we looked and we couldn't stay there overnight. It's like the wilderness. So we came back. We don't know. And then the rest of the book is like them trying to figure out what happened and trying to find them and trying to find out what people might have seen or known or.
Well, but is the book really about that? The rest of the book is like whatever characters happen to be doing, and that stuff is happening in the background.
But I
Like,
think that it
that's
is. It's implied, like, I don't know. This is why it's a vibe-based book, because the implication I felt like from the book is that everything that's being depicted somehow is connected to what happened.
Because it keeps talking about
Yeah.
how the web of the hanging rock, the net of the hanging rock, the shadow of the hanging rock, this is all part of its pattern. This is all part of its, like...
Yeah.
But I agree. It's not a lot is happening, like, textually, but I think the subtext is...
Well,
They
and
get
also
there and all of their clocks stop working. They all stopped at noon. And then, like, the one girl, what was her face? Edith. She's like, there's a big red cloud and I didn't know what it was. And like my teacher was in her underwear and I didn't know what was going on, so I ran away.
Yeah,
but
so
then,
four
like,
of the girls go up originally.
Yeah,
like,
and
like,
then one of the girls
supposed
is
to.
found like 2 weeks later, unconscious and barely alive.
So 4 of the girls go up originally. One of them freaks out and gets scared, named Edith, who, poor Edith, she's just like shit
the
on the
worst.
entire book.
Yeah, but she's the worst.
sometimes deservedly, sometimes not.
She's deservedly.
She's running back from where the other 3 girls are, and she encounters the teacher coming after them, who is in her drawers for reasons unknown. So Edith is like hysterical at the bottom, and that's like what lets them know that the girls are missing.
Right.
And then, like Bethany was saying, a couple weeks later, homeboy goes and is like in some kind of weird trance, but finds one of the girls unconscious and barely alive, who's like this heiress person. So ultimately,
very hot. It cannot be overstated how hot.
Cannot be how beautiful. They're all Venuses.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, 2 of the schoolgirls and the teacher are the ones who are permanently MIA.
Never seen again.
Yeah.
But also as to like whether or not like the book is about like this mystery, I mean, I think a lot of it is also this kind of Victorian era of like, we don't talk about troubling things, and this school has a reputation, and we're trying to keep the school going, and we can't have this like the scandal of missing students. So everything is like, let's not talk about it. Let's not focus on it. Obviously, we want the girls back. Obviously, we want them to be alive. But like, we don't talk about that. We don't talk
People
about
are
that.
like slowly leaving, but then like also bad things. So like one of the
the maid and her brother.
Yeah, so the maid quits because she is like, it's scandalous or whatever. She's scared, so she quits. But that night, she and her brother are at this hotel that is consumed in fire, and she dies. So like,
everyone's like, the school's cursed.
Basically.
But other teachers left too, and they were fine.
Well, but then but at the end, we find out that the school itself is consumed in a fire that summer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like, the school itself ultimately is destroyed too.
Did we feel like with Sarah, the subtext, because like what I was taking from what we were reading was that maybe the headmistress was like abusing her, maybe sexually abusing her.
I didn't get that.
Because there's that weird scene where she's like locked in a room and she's like on a like strapped to a board.
For her posture. So they want her to stand up straight. But she was also in a music room with all of the other kids.
Say that. And it was in a separate room. And then there was the whole thing of the
I read it. It was for her posture.
And being like over her when she's sleeping. I don't know. To me, the subtext was like, maybe there's something happening.
To me, it's the fact that she's very obviously has like romantic feelings for a female student. And I think that like by the end, she has unalived herself. And that's because the teacher is very surprised by this death. She does not seem like she knew about this.
The headmistress,
like, God damn it, another problem.
I wasn't sure if it was the headmistress. I wasn't sure if it was her guardian. And the subtext is that like there's some sort of shady, or like her guardian, there's some sort of shady arrangement where he's gonna like buy her or something, and or like he's abusing her and she kills herself, or I don't know.
So this is what I took from all the subtext about Sarah, because I was like, who bullies a 13-year-old? Oh my God. But she very much said she was in an orphanage and it was awful, and she tried to run away, and then the headmistress didn't want her to, so she shaved her head. And I think what was happening, because the headmistress is like, hey, you're like owner, I don't know what he's like, her guardian. Yeah, thank you. Hasn't paid your dues, so fuck you, I need money. And then it was just cruel to her. And then I think she was threatening to put her back into an orphanage, and she's like, I'm not going back, I'm gonna run away. because when like everyone's like, hey, I can't find Sarah, and then the headmistress opens her drawer and she has Sarah's basket in it. So I think she caught Sarah trying to run away, took her basket,
and then it sounded like maybe,
and then Sarah's like, I'm not going back to the orphanage.
Is what it seemed like. It seemed like maybe she was buried.
Oh, I didn't think she was buried. I thought
no,
she was like hidden
in the grass, like the tall grass.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, so
nature reclaiming her. If we wanted to.
She wasn't going to go back, and she jumped
and like jumped out of a window or something.
That makes more
out
sense.
of the tower.
Gardener.
Yeah.
Oh.
I thought she was trying to avoid going with her guardian, but what
she didn't know the guardian was coming.
No, because the guardian letter came after she'd already disappeared.
Okay.
And also we know she's the sister of that friend of the rich guy. That like poor guy who loves the horses and whatever. That's his sister. Because he's like, I had a sister in an orphanage too, and some rich guy took a fancy to her, and I've never seen her since. And then he sees her ghost. And he's like, I saw her that one last time. I had a dream about her last night. She was here in front of me saying, this is the last time I'm going to see you. And
I totally
did not put that together.
But I think you're right. I think Lana and
I think this is part of the problem with the book is that like it is very unclear what is ever happening.
Well, and like he would have known that his sister was one of the students there, but she was the only student that didn't go on the picnic because she was being punished for being like not having read her poem, right? So she stays back, and he sees every single other girl at the school except for her. Yeah. And then and then she dies, so he never sees her again.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Well, and I thought that the rich boy was involved in like maybe assaulting the girls because, you know, he ends up with the one girl who survived, and there's this whole thing about her trying to remember and seeing his face and then choosing not to think about it. And so it read to me like, oh, well, maybe she doesn't.
Well, she was the one that really wanted to get with him, and he was like not into it, and then he left.
Yeah.
He peaced out. Like, they
honestly,
but it made me
Mike and Albert were gay.
Like he did.
Yeah, I was gonna say I got a lot of weird subjects. Both Albert and his sister were gay. She for the student that disappeared, and he for the rich dude. And now they're gonna go off and have.
I thought Mike and Albert were having a thing. They hung out naked a lot.
They were hanging out on and on and on about how everyone's like the way that he goes on praising Albert and is like, Albert's the best guy. Albert is just the best guy. He's just the greatest. And then like the rich heiress is like, he's fine. Like, like I met him and I guess he's nice, but like the way he talks about you is just like
Albert is like trying to fight to get to Mike when he's like in his bed recuperating, and I'm like, are they gay? Like,
and they're like, let's go have
a secret boyfriend
together. Like, quit your job, come and travel with me. And they're like, great.
Right? She's just not queer coded.
Maybe.
I mean, I definitely saw it with Sarah and is it Miranda? That's
Miranda.
Really into. I didn't think about that, but that checks out. And I think also plays into the overall like not saying what's really going on. Like that would thematically, I think, go along with that of like in this era, you're not gonna be like, I love this man.
See,
they're just the best of friends.
Comments point, I also thought that the headmistress lost it and killed Sarah, like hit her head, bashed her head in or something.
I always thought Sarah did it because she didn't want to go back to the orphanage. So that was her only way out.
I would have thought that if it wasn't for the headmistress's reaction to
like,
her being
oh fuck, she's dead.
She's like, I do not need another dead student. Like,
and also her guardian gets I have all your money.
He was scared of getting. I thought it was that she was scared of getting found out. And so she was trying to have an exit strategy because like it was going to come out that she'd been involved in like abusing the students or something.
Oh, see, I thought...
but it's also she always wants money for this school. She's like, the heiresses are leaving. Anybody's money is leaving. Oh, good. I got this like letter from like her guardian saying, oh, sorry, I was out doing
but like after she's already dead.
Yeah, but she doesn't know she's like really like, oh no. Like
now when the guardian comes and tells her.
Okay, see, I thought she killed her, and when she got the letter, she was like, oh no, I killed her, and actually I'm getting in trouble for it. Like that was how I read that whole thing.
Well, I thought she's in trouble. She's like, oh no, I lost her. But like, oh no, she's dead. I'm really in trouble.
When Sarah is dead, the things the headmistress knows are that Sarah's really afraid of going back to an orphanage. She's in love with a female student, and no one's paying her dues. There's no reason for her to kill her. She wants money. And if she can't have money, she's not going to pay to keep this girl in her house because she wants money. And so then like at most she's going to get rid of her and be like, you're going to an orphanage. And so then when she gets the letter, she's like, oh, good, you actually get your money. Oh, you're dead. Like,
Yeah.
oh no.
Yeah, I didn't think she just wanted money. I thought she also just like had a cruel streak and got
Both.
off on being mean to Sarah.
Oh, both are
Like,
true.
So I think that there was a reason for her to feel like she could get away with
the
it.
boarding school itself and all of the girls are purely a source of income for her. She does not care about the girls as human beings. That's very clear. So she doesn't care if they're getting hurt, but she also is not like, I don't think she does it to have the ability to hurt them. She's just like, be quiet, obey me, don't do anything ever. Just your parents give me money, and that's all we're doing here. And like,
I guess I just
like the way the girls respond to this suppression, where they're not allowed to speak, they're not allowed to like talk about emotional things. When they come back from the picnic, we don't talk about it. And then like when what's her name? The heiress. What's her name?
Irma.
When Irma comes back, and the way they just like erupt into this emotional, like frothing at the mouth, like violent kind of frenzy, it's felt like, because there's been a lid on this so tight this whole time, they're not allowed to talk, they're not allowed to emote, they're not allowed to be with each other, they're not allowed to wonder what's happening to their fellow girls. They're just like, shh, be quiet, be a pretty silent, student, pay your dues. And now when Irma shows up, they're just like losing their minds.
I do think she hated Sarah, though. Like, I do think there was something vicious about her. Like, I don't think it was just about the money. At least, like, the way my interpretation of her character was not that.
Yeah, I low-key think she hated all of them.
I mean, yeah.
Because, so I think it's just...
Sarah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sarah was just lightning rod for it.
Sarah got collected by the Guardian is because she doesn't want another scandal for the school. She's like, no, it's fine. No other dead students here. No other missing students here. It's fine. No other scandals.
She's like, oh, she ran away, but I don't want to tell him that. Like, I don't want to tell people I lost a kid.
See, I wasn't. I did not read it that she had killed Sarah, but I did read that she was panicked because Sarah was dead. I wasn't sure if it was because Sarah had unalived herself because she didn't want to go with her guardian, though now that you guys have corrected that, that's clearly not what happened. But I think she panicked because she realized that the person was dead. She was like, it was over for her. So like, it doesn't matter. She's not going to wait for the slow humiliation of the school continuing to fall apart. She's just like, there is no coming back from this. I'm out.
I'm out. Yeah. Yeah.
There's basically no one knows the answers. We can only speculate, and that's the whole vibe of the book.
Well, and also the thing with Sarah, because she's younger than all the others, and she's from an orphanage. The others have like good breeding. So out of all of her students, like this whole school, Mrs. Appleyard does not actually have the like provenance to be like a high lady in society. She's going on vibes. And all of her students are highborn ladies, and she's got this nice house. And Sarah is like giving the lie to all of it by being this like obviously like not highbred girl. And she's like trying to get her to appear like all the others, and she's not doing it. She's just different from all the others. She won't learn her like the poetry like she's supposed to, which there's the whole thing about Mrs. Appleyard gets the poet wrong. So like she's like clearly doesn't know her stuff herself, but she's like, this is a vibes thing and society is vibes, and you are ruining the vibe. You are making it like you are going to make people look, and if they look, they'll see that I'm also not like up to snuff. Like this is all just like people have an impression of this, and we need to keep that impression alive. And if you're going to act like an orphan poor person, this is ruining the vibe. And if your guardian pays for you, well then great, because I do want money. But you need to look like the other ladies.
Yeah.
Winter Reader does make a good point that she did she knew the fact that Sarah killed herself, and that's why she hid the basket of things. So maybe she did know that she had killed herself, but I don't know.
Well, or if she had killed Sarah, would also be a reason for her to hide the basket.
I thought she just caught Sarah trying to run away, so she took her stuff and said, "You're not getting out of here. You're going to an orphanage." Blah blah blah.
I think it's unclear.
Sarah wasn't going back.
That's like part of what I found frustrating about this book is that like nothing is super clear, and the writing, like the stuff happening in the background was interesting, but the actual writing was boring.
See, I didn't think so. I
don't know.
To me, it felt like the entire book, the mood was that hot sun beating down on you. Yeah. Like it was kind of hazy and like You're a little
Makes me feel
dehydrated.
Which, to be
sweaty.
fair, is not really a writing style I like usually anyway, so that might be part of it.
It can go either way for
Yeah.
me. In this case, it worked for me because I think if it had been any longer, it would not have. But like, yeah.
If it was a short
Yeah.
story, I probably would have liked it better, but
I agree. Short story, this has short story vibes.
Yeah.
But I forgot, I'm like, oh yeah, this happened on Valentine's Day, and in Australia that would be summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took me a minute here.
Yep. Yes, I agree with this. If she had tried to leave, she would have packed better because she hadn't packed any.
Again,
of
this is
her-
why I don't think that she did try to run away. I think she
I don't
unalived
either.
herself
I
over
think. I think the headmistress.
Miranda.
I think the headmistress killed her. But either way, I mean, like, I don't.
Any of these things can be true.
We don't
because
know.
we don't know. There's no resolution. And sometimes in life you don't get resolution to things.
I will say the French teacher was probably my favorite character in terms of like who I was. My
Yeah.
sympathies were most aligned with.
And the art teacher. I like the art teacher.
Yeah. But I think I liked it the moment when the French teacher, it's like right when the girls are going to walk to, like they're leaving to go up the rock, and she has this moment of seeing Miranda and like beholding her as like one of Botticelli's angels or whatever. And I don't know, just that moment and her sensibilities there made me like her.
I thought that, again, I never remember his name, but like the rich boy was obsessed with
Michael,
was
yeah.
obsessed with one of the girls that disappeared.
Miranda.
But everyone
loves Miranda.
No, I know,
Miranda
I know.
is that girl.
Yeah.
And you know what? We never met her in the whole book. We
No, we
never
didn't.
had her talk to us. We just know what other
Yeah.
people think of her. She's like an imaginary figure, kind of.
I mean, she's in
right?
the beginning when they're talking
know.
about preparing to go to the picnic.
Yeah, but then because
But her legend
he
grows.
remembers like thinks about seeing her. I don't know, like there were like little things about how he thought about her, and then how the other girl who survived was thinking about him that made it feel like, okay, maybe he did something, and maybe the other boy was trying to cover for him because he knew what happened. Like that was kind of what I thought happened there.
No, I think Mike is just a rich kid, and he was like, "I'm gonna go out in the bush," and this Albert's like, "Why?
Okay.
All right, I have to go with you so you don't die
I
because I'm in love with you."
I don't think that's what happened, knowing what the ending was supposed to be. So is this a moment where we can talk about what the ending was supposed to
Yeah,
be?
I'm curious.
Okay, let me read it to you. In the missing chapter, the girls, having hiked up toward the rock, reach that circular plateau where they begin to feel strange. Miss McCraw appears in her drawers, but they don't recognize her. They take off their corsets and throw them off a cliff, but the corsets don't fall. They hang in the air. Seeing the suspended corsets makes them understand they're in the presence of a time warp, and they follow the math teacher into it through a crack into the rock. They enter another dimension and never return.
This is very 60s.
But how did Irma get out?
Well, I think I then went and looked on Wikipedia to see if there's more information. It sounds like so they go into the rock, and Irma's the last one to go through, and before she can go through, the rock closes and she can't get through, and she's like scratching trying to get in it.
'Cause I think they talk about
Yeah.
how dirty her nails are when they find her.
Well, and that her corset is missing, and no one ever talked about how her corset was missing, which
So-
I assumed meant there was sexual assault that happened.
But I think now that we know the author's original intent, no, there was an actual red mist, and I don't think
Virgin
he had
suicide
anything
means
to do
lost.
because I think that this was literally just
And
A
Rich Boy is clearly gay. So
Yeah. Tell me he and Albert are not secret boyfriends. Like they're gonna go off on that like long trip together.
not
and they're
even
gonna
secret.
discover some feelings.
Is it secret when he tells everyone that will listen how great Albert is? Is it secret?
Yeah, but they're like, oh, they must be best friends. Look at them, they're roommates. No, they're gonna go off on a trip and just like discover some feelings they have.
yeah. So I
There's
don't
only
think
one bed.
he-
Oh no.
To this point, I do feel like there's a lot about this book that feels very 60s. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm like, yeah, it tracks that this is something that was written then. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think
Yeah.
even the queerness stuff
Yeah.
definitely tracks with it
And,
being
you know,
in the
instead of
60s
bra
and, like,
burning, we're doing corset burning. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
like,
Because I'm like, well, like in a sexual assault, corsets are hard to get off. Like, you know? So
Yeah.
you'd have to want it, get it off. So
But because that's the author's intent, I definitely do not think that there's something. I don't think he was involved at all, because I
Yeah.
think that this is purely just a.
And in general, he's
and
never
everyone is
portrayed
drawn to
in-
this rock for different reasons, and Mike
you know
is
what's funny?
included in the
I think I
mystery.
would have liked
Yeah.
it better, actually, with that ending.
Well, your
I think it's better
your
without
very
it.
nefarious perception of things would have been less nefarious. I mean, again, Mike
Yeah.
is never portrayed in any way that is like again, nefarious or insidious or anything. He's always portrayed in a very like heroic, sweet boy trying to help kind of way.
Yeah,
There's never a scene where he's doing
but I
something
never
crazy.
believe that with men anyway. So, I mean, you know,
Innocent
fair,
until
like,
proven guilty.
I'm just saying, no, I mean, because the reason is
Because
there's
Mrs.
a moment-
Appleyard
there's a
is
moment where
portrayed
the
quite
girl is
sinisterly.
trying to remember what happened, and she remembers seeing his face, and then looks away from the memory because she doesn't want to remember what happened. And so I was like, oh, so I assumed that was what that meant.
Oh, I see. But so now with that context, I wonder if what that meant was she wakes up and she's not in the dimension she's supposed to be, like that she was trying to get to.
Mhm.
So it's like that moment of seeing his face is like, shit, I didn't
Oh,
go into this time warp. Like instead,
okay.
this guy just
Interesting.
found me, and now
Yeah.
I'm going to be a countess.
Interesting.
Yeah. All of their little dates they have with each other. I'm sorry, Mike is so gay. He's so gay. Like he's with her. He's
Again,
like,
and-
he's very pretty, objectively speaking.
Yeah, and like when
Yeah.
everyone's trying to get them together, they're like, why isn't he more interested? And she's very interested. And he's just like, oh yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it. Oh well.
This
Like
makes
he's
a lot
not
of
like
sense. This
trying
is
to see
not
her.
what I read when I read it initially, but like I totally
Yeah.
get this. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I'm like,
Whereas again, Mrs.
and Albert.
Appleyard is portrayed very sinisterly throughout. Like there is no scene where you're like, well, there's a good side to Mrs. Appleyard.
No.
No.
They even describe her like she's a fucking creature, like in the middle of the night when she's not wearing her clothes, and she's like, no one sees her this way with
She's-
her pendulous breasts. And I
But
was like,
she's
oh
also,
god,
like it's again very much about like artifice, because like everything
Yeah.
about her is like I'm like pinned up and put together and powdered up so that no one will see the real me, which
Right.
is like poor and older than I want to look. So like when they talk about how like it's like battle armor that she's
Mhm.
like, and then that's why she has this very aggressive demeanor, because no one dare look beneath the surface and see the truth. So she's like, just shut it down.
Mhm.
She's very, was it Mrs. Trunchbolt and Matilda? Like she's giving
Yeah.
very like,
Yes.
Which I think it's interesting that
I'm
the
going to put you in the pokey.
the miniseries cast Natalie Dormer to play Mrs. Appleyard, which definitely has a different tone because she
all
is
they
yeah.
say, talk about her boobs so many times. She's like, she had these enormous bosoms in her corset, and then when she doesn't have it on, they're pendulous. And I was like, there's a lot of boob talk.
You know, as someone with pendulous boobs, you know,
You know,
it happens.
It
They
it happens.
they swing. They have the mind of
Whenever I hear
Yeah.
pendulous, I was like,
I am
It'll take
curious
time.
to see. I'd be curious to watch the miniseries and see like what they do with it, because I could see liking it in a different format.
I definitely want to see this movie now from the
Yeah.
70s to see like, I bet that it's like really trippy.
Probably.
I think I would be into that.
Hmm.
also
It's
the
interesting.
miniseries does a lot more to speculate about what Mrs. Appleyard's backstory is. So it invents a whole lot of stuff
Okay.
about why she's here and why she's keeping her identity a
Oh.
secret.
Interesting. Okay.
It is interesting that in the chat, one person said if this had been the ending, I would have given it 1 star, and someone else said that they would have given it a star higher.
A
if that
star
had been the
higher.
ending. So I think it's a divide. It was definitely it's a bold choice, that potential
It is,
ending.
but it would be divisive.
I like the choice. I like it. It's like sometimes you don't get an answer,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I think it's brilliant, but maybe not a lot of people. It's divisive.
To me, it
You either
almost
like
again,
it or
this
you
is
don't.
why I compare it to Gene Wolfe, because I feel like the Book of the New Sun has all this information in the background, whatever, you could piece it together. And then the publishers made him write Earth of the New Sun, which in theory retroactively then goes back and confirms and explains some things that he just kind of like left in the background for you to figure out. And so I feel like with this, because it's known, you have this foreword, or it is established that this is what the author intended with this ending, but it's not actually the ending of the book. So both with Book of the New Sun and with Picnic at Hanging Rock, there is an author's answer to what's going on that you can choose to engage with. But if you have a theory of what's going on that's internally consistent from the material as published, that is also a valid way to interpret the work, because that's not actually how it ends. Like Earth of the New Sun is like a completely separate book that was later published. So if you had a theory about Book of the New Sun that was internally consistent, then like that's still an interesting way to engage with it. Just like with Picnic at Hanging Rock, if you have a non-speculative interpretation of what's going on, the ending isn't actually speculative. So it's completely valid and fair to read it that way.
Yeah,
that's true.
Now, what do you guys think of the comparisons? Because I have not read The Virgin Suicides, but the comparisons are We Have Always Lived in the Castle, Rebecca, and The Virgin Suicides.
I picked up Virgin Suicides immediately. Like I said, this is Virgin Suicides meets Lost.
I haven't read Virgin Suicides, but I see the We Have Always Lived in the Castle reference.
Yeah, definitely that one. Rebecca, I don't know if it's just because it's like old timey.
Well, like the maid in that one, like you're not Rebecca, like whatever her fucking name is. I forget her name. It's like Mrs. Appleyard.
Hannah, Mrs.
Danvers.
Danvers. There we go.
Yeah, I read it. I don't remember.
With Rebecca and with this as published, they are both kind of a non-speculative haunting. Even though this ultimately would have been speculative, but it's not actually as published. So with like Rebecca, it's again, there's no actual ghosts, but like it's a very kind of like haunting, mysterious kind of vibe.
Yeah,
without there actually being a speculative element.
The speculative element is part of what I don't think I would have wanted to see that ending in the book, but I do like now reading everything that's happening as being supernaturally or like extraterrestrially driven, like the fires, the maybe Sarah's going like mad from Miranda no longer being in the same dimension as her, like whatever. I like that as a lens.
Well, to me, again, I can't, because like the students weren't allowed to ask what was going on with the missing girls. Like they were, all information about this was withheld. They were not allowed to talk about it. They were not allowed to hear about it. And so like when Irma shows up, that's why they freak out. But I think for Sarah was holding out hope that Miranda would return, that she would see Miranda again. And it's become very clear that she's gone forever. And like that realization would be, whether or not she actually unalives herself, at the very least, like you can see how she takes a material downturn mentally. Like again, you can speculate about how she meets her end, but by the end, she's like in bed, non-responsive. She's like, I don't care about anything anymore. And like, I think that's why.
Yeah.
I can see.
I mean, I think there is a way she could have like woven in hints at the speculative ending without fully explaining everything.
Well, she did.
That could have been interesting.
Well, all the clocks kept stopping and
like a little more to, like she could have, I think there's a way she could have like done an ending that gave a little more without fully,
I would have
there was, and it got removed
in town. And like there were just like people showing up and then like mysteriously disappearing. That would have been great. Like I would have loved more aliens basically in this, or if the kid who was like who Mike who found them has like a dream about seeing floating corsets in the air or something. Like I don't know, like that would be interesting.
Well, so I'm both, when I watched the miniseries and then when I was reading this, because I hadn't read the foreword, I assumed that the clock stopping was one of those like geological phenomenons, where like compasses don't work sometimes in places, and because these are like old timey like gear watches that they would have just stopped working because of like this is they're at the Hanging Rock, and Hanging Rock is this like weird geological place, like not as weird as the author wanted it to be, but like that this would like sometimes that physical places will have an effect on technology in that way. So I assume that's what was happening, and it would just be one of those like we might have found the girls, but like our clock stopped and the sun and the distance and it all just like everything compounded to create the situation that was like unavoidable and was always destined to happen kind of feeling.
Yeah. And did you guys look up the painting that they talked about? Because like Hanging Rock itself is let me find it. I'll share it because I was like trying to picture. I don't know if
they filmed it at Hanging Rock, but wherever they filmed the miniseries, it was very impressive.
Yeah, I didn't look up extra things for this book. I was like, I'm gonna read it. It's done now. I was glad it wasn't very long.
I do think it made an interesting book to discuss, you know?
Yeah. Because
So,
everything is speculation, so you could
Yeah.
just talk about it all day. But
Yeah.
yeah, if it was an extra
I'm
100
having more
pages
fun
longer,
talking about it than I had reading it. So,
I fully agree with you, Bethany.
It's a much less dark story than Bethany thought it was.
They just disappeared. Sometimes people just disappear and you never find out what happens.
yep.
So I think it literally, like, from a literary perspective, I thought it was a bold, good choice.
So this is the painting that they're talking about.
Oh, interesting.
And it's like not really what I pictured, to be honest.
Oh.
So then like this also made me, because I was picturing like essentially like a weird rock in the middle of a desert with like some scraggly trees, but this feels like,
Oh.
I mean, this
Well,
looks like
I'm
where they filmed the
picturing-
miniseries. So
They
this
do
was what I was
talk
picturing.
about the forest, though.
yeah, I guess I just wasn't imagining like this kind of a forest. I think in my mind it was like, I don't know, like succulent kind of forest versus
Yeah, I thought it was a
like-
bit sparser than this.
Yeah, yeah.
I imagine this. I just imagine more of a rock structure that was a little more interesting.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
imagining this, the thing in the middle is the titular hanging rock.
No, I think the rock is.
I was expecting more like a Vasquez rocks, like from
Yeah.
Star
This
Trek.
is just like at the base of it. I think like the rock that they're talking about is like visible from quite a distance away. And
Oh, so this
going
is
up
sort of
off.
like if we turn the camera around kind of thing,
Yeah.
there would be rocks
Yeah, it
going up.
goes up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like off
Got
to the right side there, where it starts to kind of go up more than you can see. I think
Mhm.
is like where it would continue up and on
Okay.
because they climb quite high, like, and that's why
Yeah.
they're told like not to.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was interesting to see.
Yeah.
The only thing, okay, so there's like the last thing that I thought of that was a speculation is like, why was the teacher in her underwear? I always assumed it's because she's very practical and she's like, my dress is getting caught on brush. I'm going to take it off and go after these kids.
I thought she went skinny dipping.
She's a math teacher.
like
she was like,
swimming,
huh,
you know?
hypotenuse and like all this stuff on the way
No,
there.
Yeah, but I think like
Skinny
that's
dipping
part
in
of
what
it, right, is,
water?
like it's all these like buttoned up Victorians who have this repressed sexuality, and so I assumed the teacher was like going swimming in her underthings or like nude. or
Swimming in
something.
what though?
What?
Swimming in
the-
what?
I don't think there was any
stream. Wasn't
water
there like
there.
a stream?
There was
back
like a small amount of water that they kind of have to hop over, and that's why they talk about the girls who gracefully hop over and the ones that
Yeah.
don't gracefully hop over.
I don't
But
know.
it's
I
not,
guess
like,
I
enough
just
to swim in,
imagined
I
that
don't
there
think.
was like water nearby and maybe she went swimming. I don't know. That was in my head what I
There's
thought.
I
there's
figured she
water
was,
at
like-
Mike's house. He has like a little lake
Yeah.
because he thought a swan was Miranda.
Yeah,
at one point.
I feel like I don't know. I was picturing her just sort of the Lord of the Flies element of it, of like kind of just going a little bit mad as she gets
A little
closer
feral.
and closer to what we now know as
I think it was supposed to be like she's
portal.
crazy, but like I was like, oh, this is practical. Like if you're gonna climb a rock, why would you wear like
Yeah.
a big calico dress?
Yeah.
So that was the only part. I'm like, yeah, that's just practical. She's like a math teacher.
And then, you got to get rid of those corsets so your pendulous breasts can.
Well, they were teenage girls. I don't think they were pendulous yet,
No. Well, the teacher
but
though.
maybe.
Well, I believe Irma's were described as because
There's a lot of breast description in this book.
it was like little voluptuous, and I was like, that made me pause. Of like, is it? Are we saying they're
Beau
not?
petite.
And like, are they not large but very plump? I don't know what exactly.
Yeah,
A little voluptuous breast
handfuls. I
is.
think is
Yeah,
the key.
maybe.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, she's
Yeah.
beyond beautiful. So whatever the most beautiful little voluptuous breast you can imagine.
You
is,
guys have seen Bend It Like Beckham, right?
I haven't.
I have, but
I
it's
have.
been.
I know, as a
Years.
millennial woman, I should have, but I haven't.
When they're like measuring her for her like traditional outfit, and they're like, with our designs, even these mosquito bites will be juicy mango.
I think Irma already has juicy mangoes.
She's got the juicy mangoes. She's
Yeah.
like hot and she's like charming to be around, and she's like has
rich.
money.
And
All
so
the
And I'm
emeralds.
like, I want to go hang out with
Emeralds
Albert.
are like very emeraldy emeralds that are very visible. She's like, look how rich I am.
yeah. She is certainly rich.
Yes.
I don't know. I was writing like a sequel with Mike and Albert going on their long cross country trip and discovering their romance. Like that's the book I want.
Well, I think
Oh, yeah.
that
What
is what's
format did we all read this?
I had
Audio.
ebook,
physical?
audio, and ebook.
Let's speak one at a time. I did not hear any of that.
I did audio.
I did ebook and audio simultaneously.
I did physical.
I also did physical. I wonder, I would imagine if, depending on the narrator, I feel like a book that's more like wispy, vibey, you're like in a haze. I don't think an audiobook would feel too grounded, like I'm talking to a person. You know what I mean? Like whereas if I'm kind of in my own head while I'm reading this, then I can be transported to like, what is real, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
I need audiobooks or I can't read. So it's always going to be audio for me.
I mean, I don't know. I kind of tried reading a little bit with it, and I was having trouble like focusing because I was less interested in the audiobook. At least I could like do other things while I was listening to it.
I will say I think that is an advantage of reading with one's eyeballs, is that like some of the places where things lag, I just kind of like I'm not reading as closely. So I think that those just don't stick with me as much, like if it's lagging, because
I do both at the same time. Like I have usually a physical copy and I'm listening and reading along. Because that's just how my brain, that's how I like it. And I will not defend it. I will just say that's how I like it.
I mean, I read in like all different. I read in things in all different formats, but yeah, this was one that I was kind of like, I don't know. Like, I feel like this is the kind of book that takes me forever to get through if I'm not listening to the audiobook.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Like if it was 100 pages longer, I would have hated it. But 200 pages was like my max.
For me, it was
You
like
know?
the perfect length. I wouldn't want it longer or shorter.
I think
could have been shorter.
I think I would have loved
Not
it
longer.
if it was shorter. I really liked it, but I would have loved it if it was shorter.
I would have liked
Yeah.
it if it was shorter too.
Yeah, shorter definitely.
Yeah, I would second this. Natalie Dormer is very good. I mean, it's a very different vibe because, again, they write a whole backstory for Mrs. Appleyard that doesn't exist. And she's also obviously young and beautiful, which is very different. So the tone is very different with Mrs. Appleyard. But Natalie Dormer is a great actress. So she's very...
She can play like evil bitch very well.
Yeah, so she is very entertaining to watch in the adaptation.
I mean, yeah, she's a great actress, but like definitely not the vibe of Appleyard as written.
Yeah. I mean, like it's the same vibe in like many of the essentials, but again, it's like a difference in like the tone of it, you know, because like the fact of her not being as well born as she wants to appear to be, the fact that she has this iron grip of the students, the fact that she's not very kind, like that's all still true, but it's again like it's more like the interpersonal, like how people perceive her is going to be different because again how she looks or like how she uses that to her advantage or disadvantage.
Less pendulous breast,
less pendulous breast,
more juicy mangoes.
Yeah, I think Natalie Dormer would have been a great young Miss Appleyard, like at the start of her career, and she's like, I have to put this together, and then she would get older, but more pendulous as time goes by, but the same personality.
Yeah.
So I would say like as like a young Appleyard, I could see it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Hashtag
there's no answers. There's no answers for anything in this.
It's interesting.
Well, there is one answer, and it's the author's answer, and it's very weird.
Yeah, I feel like you always do things that I haven't heard of and probably never would have otherwise picked up. So it's always interesting.
Yeah, and this is definitely this is clearly a classic in Australia. Like this is one of their, I think, like, I don't know, Great Gatsby kind of things that they all have to read. So it's cool to read a different country's, like, you know, school.
Yeah, what's their high school curriculum when they have to read?
It's also interesting seeing Victorian via Australia, because like Australian Victorianism is similar, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah, because Mike is British, and I think Irma was British too, and they were staying in Australia for reasons. I think Mike's like with his uncle, and his uncle does horses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're out there.
And like
at
there's a
horse
lot made
farm.
about how could Miranda have gotten lost? Because she's, pretty rich, but she
She's
also
from the
knows
bush.
she knows her way about the land. Like she's the one they make a point when the carriage gets there without being asked. She just hops down and opens the latch on the gate because she's just like used to being like on the land and doing stuff like that. So she just does it. And they're all like, okay, like prissy girls might get lost, but Miranda, like
Yeah.
she's too practical. She knows how to survive out there more or
Whereas
less.
the teacher, they're like, R.I.P. if she's not with them. She's gone.
Yeah.
Yep.
She knows math, but not the bush. Like,
Yeah.
bless her heart. She could math her way out of it, maybe.
Well, and also the whole thing about Australia, like being it's not dissimilar from America in the whole of like you could escape there and make a new identity for yourself. So Mrs. Appleyard is also like no one like knows me. I can just like be who I say I am here in Australia.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, I think this was a good pick, even if not everybody loved it.
No,
I
I agree. I think
good
it was
convo, and I don't know. I liked it. I'm hanging on to this.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
And a refreshing split that Leanna liked something.
Because there's no guarantee I'll like it even if I pick it.
I know.
What are we reading next?
Speaking of which,
Yes,
I have 3 options, and I kind of want us to pick together because one of them I picked it, but like I low-key already like hated just looking at it. But I'm like, do we want to read this?
Okay.
Anyway, these are the 3 options I have, and I want us to pick together.
Okay.
So this is the one I'm the least excited about, Phantasma, because I'm like, this might be awful. I think it's going to be really bad.
I definitely DNF her debut novel, but we can try it.
See, that would like I'm not going to read it unless like I have to, or I have something that's like unusual.
I did not like that.
I didn't like it either.
Okay, then not that one. The last one I have is this book called Red Rabbit by Alex Gresham. It's kind of a Western, but I don't have it. I don't have the book yet. But it says a ragtag posse must hunt down a witch through a wild west beset by demons and ghosts, where death is always around the bend. And then, so it's kind of like a ragtag group of people together hunting a witch in a paranormal Wild West. And I like Westerns.
Oh, wait. Oh, no, it's not Tom. Okay, there is a book called Red Rabbit by Tom Clancy.
Oh, no, this one is by Alex Gresham.
Okay. So we're not reading Jack Ryan number 2.
Very different vibe.
No.
I think either that or I think it could be fun to hate read Phantasm.
See, but I don't, that's not my year. My year is like, I'm not hate reading anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
let's do Red Rabbit.
okay.
I like Westerns, and like I don't get to read them very often. And it's horror as well, but I was like, maybe that's like a Halloween, but I'm like, that thing's not going to pick it. It's fine.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I know what I'm picking.
What
are you picking?
I have
well, Mara, do you want to go?
Yes, I have mine. I thought about giving you options, and then I decided not to.
Can we know after you tell us what our future will definitely be? Can we find out what the runner-up was?
Yes. The Enigma of Room 2622 by Joël Diquet.
The cover is fantastic.
So the reason I want to read it with you guys is because I have been told I will love it and hate it. It's a meta murder mystery set at a Swiss Alpine hotel, and the main character is the author. So I don't know, like I have people whose taste I align with frequently who both have loved and hated this. So I don't know if this is going to be like a 5-star or a 1-star for me.
Is that like a special edition or is that just the regular cover? Because that is stunning.
This is just the regular cover.
Love it.
And it's in translation. So I like that I wanted to pick something that was in translation for mystery. That was my
So it was
goal.
originally written in French or German?
French. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's set in the Alps at an Alpine hotel. So, or like a ski resort kind of thing. So I figured we could do like summer, like winter and summer kind of a thing. So we could like put on parkas and cute little ski buddies
and melt.
And melt.
And melt.
Maybe a scarf. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Well, because for me, I don't know about you guys, but I have the AC cranked up, so I'm always a little cold in the summer because the alternative is to be dying of heat. So I don't mind being in a little parka. But anyway, so this is what I picked. The runner-up was the Tokyo Zodiac Murders, which is a Japanese
Interesting.
serial killer book. But the reason I didn't pick it because I was like, I don't really know what we would dress up like for that.
Yeah.
So
Serial killers.
Well, mine's a Western, so you just be cowboys and cowgirls.
yeah.
Mine's
Yeah,
Western.
Amanda's is easy.
So-
This I figure we could be little snow bunnies.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going with The Devil in Silver by Victor LaValle.
Ooh, I'm excited for Victor LaValle.
He's great. So this one takes place in a mental institution in Queens, New York. And they think there's a devil roaming the hallways when the sun goes down, harassing like inpatients.
Okay.
So I don't know. I really love Victor LaValle's writing. There is an audiobook.
Is it contemporary or is it like an old timey insane asylum?
I think it's contemporary. Usually his stuff is. It doesn't say it's historical.
Lone Women is a Western.
Lone
That's the
Women
only
is
thing
a
I've read from
Western.
him.
That's true. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's contemporary. But my thought was, I hadn't really thought about like dressing up.
We could dress up like devils.
We could dress up like devils.
Or insane asylum inmates.
Or insane asylum.
Exactly.
Yep.
Insane asylum inmates or devils. There you go. So that'll be our Halloween
Or
pick.
both at the same time.
Or
yeah. Like I love or both.
I mean, one of
I
my favorite-
love his writing, and I feel like he always has a lot of layers to it, so it should make for a good conversation.
permission to dress up as the lead character of one of my favorite movies, Quills.
Go for
The
it.
Marquis de
Go
Sade.
Okay, well, I'm putting both of those in my cart, and I did check. Enigma that book does have an audio, so we're good.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I dropped in the private chat the link to Red Rabbit because I don't have it, but I heard about it and I want to read more horror and I like Westerns and this is combining them.
I never I'm not down for like just a straight up Western, but a Western plus speculative is a fantastic combo in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this one will be fun.
Yeah.
Ooh, the cover. Okay, can you guys see that cover?
Oh, that's.
Oh, I have a different cover. Mine's like red.
Interesting.
It's got like a creepy ass voodoo doll on it.
Yeah.
Pop it.
Yeah, mine's like it's like red with like a tree. That's like another cover though.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
The hardcover is like red.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
that's the
Yeah.
cover I see.
Ooh, I like your cover.
That looks Western.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one, give me nightmares.
Well, it is about like an evil witch and they're hunting her, and maybe the evil. I don't know. Maybe the witch isn't evil. I don't know. I haven't read it. I
We'll
just
find
heard
out.
about it and thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I
You're
haven't
hunting
heard of that.
Red
You're
Rabbit.
hunting Glinda.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I am manifesting a great year of book club reads because I enjoyed this. I know
Yeah.
and Bethany didn't as much.
I mean, I
enjoyed
didn't
this.
hate
don't
it.
hate
Though. Like, I didn't hate it, and I feel like it was a good conversation. I'm not mad we read it.
Yeah.
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 But
Yeah, I don't have a murder boner for it. I don't have a rage boner. I don't care. I'm just like, it's fine. I read it. I'm glad I read it. I'm not going to think about it from time to time, but it's fine. I'm not upset.
But I'm excited about Red Rabbit. That sounds like something
Yeah.
I like. I'm hoping I'm gonna love this and it'll be like 5 stars.
Interesting. Katie
And
in the
then I like
comments is
Victor LaValle.
recommending the audio of Enigma, so that's good to hear.
Okay.
The audio.
And
Fabulous.
Katie also says that Enigma is definitely a love or hate. There is no in between. So
Okay.
we'll
Well,
all
that should
find
be a
out.
fun live show.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the very
That's
least.
already how I read everything. So.
That's very true.
So I feel like at every book club, you could just ask me, well, Leanna, was it 5 or 1?
Hey, this one was a 4.
I think I gave it 5.
If not, you're now
April, July, and October will be
Yes.
the next ones.
Be the last weekend of April.
Yep.
Subject to change. Life happens. So, but
approximate.
Around then.
right now, that's when it's supposed to be. But asterisk.
Oh, no, I did only give it 4.
You got to up it, I guess. If
Lied.
you're now saying it's 5.
I mean, 4 and 5 is fine. You either like it or you don't like it. There's no like, I don't care about it.
Yeah.
So you're very passionate, Leanna.
Not a lot of 3s.
She's a woman of passions.
Woman of passions.
Whereas I
Yeah.
rarely-
So like, I guess we know all the books for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
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 I realized because I thought we were doing this one, but then like this month I was like, I hope we're doing this one because that's what I just bought. So I was like, oh, I should come with my pick so that people know
Yes. Yay.
what we're doing. Yeah, I'm excited, guys.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we can read in advance. Everyone can get them.
Glad you didn't despise my pick.
No.
Definitely
Glad I didn't
better
despise
than.
my pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you
Yes.
did. Definitely better than my workbook club, where there have been 2 different Frida McFaddens chosen, and I'm like, I mean, they're so quick to get through, but like they are, like, what is there to talk about? There's just like,
There is that.
yeah.
I feel like that's what 3-star reads are usually. It's like, well, it was inoffensive. The end.
Yeah.
Like, great.
Yeah. But there usually is something offensive in a Frida McFadden.
I've only read one of her books and I liked it, but like I've only read one, so
They're like potato chip reads. They
yeah,
like
that's
they
what it
li-
seems like.
I literally don't think any of them have taken me more than 2 hours to read. They're just like, yeah. It's like watching an episode of whatever crime drama is on CBS.
There are so many of those. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, it's the second person. 9 times out of 10 are easy to figure out.
Big, yeah.
I always watch. I'm so much more familiar, I feel like, with the British like police and judicial system because I watch so many more like murder mysteries that are British. Because like the American stories, like it's like the same type of appeal, right? It's like a crime and we're investigating the crime and it's like the mystery of who did it. But like the Americans are so like the cops and the guns and that we got a warrant, blah blah.
I
blah.
don't-
Like, it's just so like ugh. And
Well,
like
that's why I
British ones
like-
are knock knock, how cup of tea? You know, did you murder somebody? You know?
Well, that's why I
Even for
like
Hot Fuzz.
OG Law and Order, because it was more like actually trying to solve it. Like it's not, you know, Jerry Orbach is not a tough cop guy. You know what I mean? Like he's not
Mhm.
assaulting people in the street or anything. So it's mostly like a murder mystery, and then like how are they going to do it?
That's
In
why I
court?
always loved Pushing Daisies because it was just like
Oh,
sweet,
yeah.
cozy pies and a murder.
Well, but Midsummer Murders is just,
An institution.
I mean, it's so good. It's a British crime, like it's their equivalent.
How
of
is
Law and
anyone
Order.
left alive in Midsummer? Is
We
the
don't know, but they literally, it's been going, I think, like 25 seasons now.
It's a lot of
like,
murders.
It's
It's a rough town. People should
Well,
move out.
and like fun fact, you can see naked Orlando Bloom butt in an early season. Like all their actors have been on it. Like it's like Law and Order in that way,
Is he-
where like
Does he have a good butt?
young Orlando Bloom had a perfectly nice butt.
Because I always felt like it'd be like I'm thinking like Orlando
not
Bloom in
pendulous.
Troy, where I'm like he looks like he had the flattest butt in Troy.
It was. It was like a juicy little mango. When I say.
Like
It was little
fly.
envelope. It was little envelope.
Love it.
Yeah,
We all learned something today.
exactly. But anyway, Midsummer Murders, it is cuckoo bananas, and it's great. I love it. There's so many.
It's
things
also
we-
funny how many famous actors are in Poirot, like old,
Oh yeah,
the older ones, especially like Michael Fassbender is in one of them, and
he is, and he's fucking his cousin. Spoilers, I guess, for that.
In real life?
No, in that episode.
Oh, I'm like, what?
There's a dramatic reveal where they're like, we're cousins. And it's very funny.
Honestly, I
Especially
read so
because,
much
like,
Anne Rice
if
that I'm
you
like,
go
I'm
back-
praying for cousins. at
but it's
this
also
point.
funny because if you go back like 50 or 100 years and in that same town, you would be encouraged to be marrying your cousin because like that's like
Well,
an eligible marriage.
Yeah, and at the time, it's set, the original, that particular book is set in the 1950s. I don't know that there was a super strong.
It seems a bit outdated by the 50s.
Well, I just don't know that there's a ton of like aghastness at cousin
Yeah.
marriage,
I
considering
think
that
people
like,
would have been
you know,
kind of like, not ideal, but
I don't think people were doing it as much anymore, but I'm certain that many of their parents were cousins or second cousins.
Yeah. I'm thinking in the 50s, they probably weren't still doing it that often, but their parents
Yeah,
probably were.
Had, yeah.
yeah.
That's probably true.
So
Yeah.
it's a little
I don't know.
anachronistic, but it is very funny to watch them like,
this is disgusting.
we're cousins. I don't remember her name, but you would recognize her face.
Well, she plays the like evil stepsister of multiple Cinderellas.
She does.
She's got
So
evil
she's a-
stepsister face.
Yeah,
Oh,
she
no.
does.
No, so she's actually
She's a-
because she's been asked about it because I think 3 different times she has played the stepsister, and they're like, "Is like, what's the deal with that?" And she's like, "I always liked the stepsisters. I am very okay with this."
She's a British character actress. You would recognize her face, but it's just her delivery of that line always makes me laugh. And then he tries to hold her hand, and she's like yanks it away from him, and I'm like,
well, because she's also
if Michael Fassbender was my cousin, I'd be fucking him too.
Well, she's also extremely religious, I think, right? And
Oh,
she's
that's
like
right.
doing
She's
like
a
missionary work
missionary.
or whatever.
Yeah. So it's not even just that they're cousins. She's
So
also...
they were fucking on a mission trip.
No, she's just this is
No,
her deal. She's just like,
yeah, she's going back
Okay.
out on the mission field, but in the meantime,
to
she's
get away from
Michael
society.
Fassbender.
She's gonna go and spread the good word.
Yeah.
Yeah, on shore leave, things happen. And then
Yeah. But then she says, I think she does go to Africa at the end of it. And I'm like, I feel like that was a miss on her part. She needed to just be like,
well, she likely doesn't have any cousins there, so there's that.
it's true. There's fewer when you're the colonizer, you have fewer direct relatives around.
Yeah.
I
I don't know, because there's lots of other colonizers around that you're probably related to and staying with.
Could be. It's hard to say.
Well, never mind. She's just doomed for cousin fucking her whole life.
That is my favorite episode of
I somehow feel like that between the being of a cousin and the being of Michael Fassbender, the one that was like the more important factor in the equation was the being of Michael Fassbender. The cousin thing was incidental. I don't think she's into cousins. I think she's into Michael Fassbender.
Yeah.
And like I said, if he were my cousin, I'd be into him too. So I feel like
I mean,
you don't know. She could have a cousin kink.
I live in
She could have a cousin
Tennessee.
kink.
You know, I mean, it's anything goes here, so I'd be good to go.
Although Jane Eyre would tell you he's not handsome at all, not in any way.
That is true.
Wait till he gets burned in a fire, and then I'll marry him.
Oh, what's her face is also not beautiful in that adaptation.
I think when I was telling Elle how funny I think that is, that in when you watch Jane Eyre and he's like, "Do you find me handsome?" and she's like, "No," and everyone's like, "Are you joking? You're Michael Fassbender." and Elle was like, "If he's not handsome, what chance do the rest of us have?"
Well, that's the problem where like adaptations, they always cast like very attractive.
Well, and like I said at that point too, I was like, well, they like give him some scruff to try to like ugly him up. She was like, scruff is more attractive.
For Michael Fassbender,
Jane Eyre's supposed to be a kid. Jane Eyre's like 19 or something, and he's like almost 40. So maybe she wouldn't be like attracted to him right away. She's like, you could be my dad.
That's
then eventually it changes, but like in the start she's like, no.
But I mean, per the book he's supposed to be not very attractive, like not just like older,
and
but,
neither
like,
is she. Like she's also supposed to be plain.
They're on the same level of attractiveness, you know.
16-year-old,
they're both sixes, then like
down to do whatever with Mr. Rochester. So 37-year-old Mara is also down to do whatever with Mr. Rochester.
As long as Mr. Rochester is Michael Fassbender.
especially if Mr. Rochester is Michael Fassbender. One last plug for that episode of Poirot. It also features Dolores Umbridge in a fantastic performance. So,
wow,
what's her name? Imelda Staunton. That's a great episode. It's got
she
a really
was so good at being awful.
Awful. Yeah.
she's got stepsister face. Like she's got that ugly stepsister face. She's like,
in one movie she was like an underground abortion provider, so she's not always the baddie.
Well, you know, I'm just saying, like,
that I played, so I enjoy that.
Brit. Yeah, she's a tough cookie, whether that's in a good way or a bad way. She's still a tough cookie.
Yeah.
And she doesn't usually play the wilting like wallflower.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, April will be back with Red Rabbit.
Indeed.
We surely will. The lesson of this episode was be gay and
don't do crime.
Don't do crime.
Avoid
Instead,
aliens.
fuck Michael Fassbender and avoid aliens.
So many lessons.
Juicy mangoes. The end.
We hope that was helpful life lessons for all of you.
Yeah. Take this onward into 2025.
Yeah, these are the lessons we're taking into the year.
Yeah.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you all in April on Amanda's channel.
My channel.
Bye.
Bye.